Good morning. Here's the news at 10. First, the highlights. Lagos State government partners tour operators to transform beaches into world-class tourism destination. Federal government makes thesis submission mandatory for prospective members of National Youth Service Corps. On the foreign scene, church shooting, arson attack kills 4 persons, injures 8 others in Michigan, United States. And in sports, Polish professional footballer Robert Lewandowski seals comeback win for Barcelona to beat Real Sociedad. Now the details. I am Dele Agadumo. Lagos State government, in partnership with the Nigerian Association of Tour Operators, NATOP, and other stakeholders, has reaffirmed its readiness to transform Takwa Bay and other beaches in the state into world-class tourism destinations. This reassurance was given at a ceremony held at Takwa Bay Beach, Victoria Island, to commemorate the 2025 World Tourism Day with the theme Tourism and Sustainable Transformation. The event, spearheaded by the Commissioner for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Toke Benson Awoyinka, highlighted Lagos' vision to reposition its beaches as economic and cultural assets capable of competing with international destinations. Benson Awoyinka emphasized that Lagos possesses untapped tourism potential, and the state government intends to let the world know that there are vast tourism gems in the state and people do not need to travel abroad to experience world-class tourist services. On her part, NATOP President Bolaji Mustafa called for robust collaboration between government and the private sector to maximize Nigeria's competitive edge in global tourism. She cited examples from other African countries who have tapped into the tourism sector, stressing the need to train Takwa Bay locals in hospitality skills, including food preparation, to align with international standards. Lagos State government has intensified its crackdown on illegal reclamation and dredging along the Lagos Lagoon. A joint enforcement team led by the Commissioner for Waterfront Infrastructure Development, Dayo Alebioshu, sealed off a property on Admiralty Way in Lekki Phase 1 for unauthorized reclamation and illegal extension works. Alebioshu described the action of the property owners as legendary audacity, noting that the building had been sealed several times in the past, but construction and social activities continued. He said the offenders will face prosecution and risk forfeiting the reclaimed land. On his part, Commissioner for Physical Planning, Olumide Oluyinka, revealed that the owner initially presented plans for a 1,200 square meter layout, but had illegally expanded it to over 8,000 square meters. During the exercise, the team also discovered and sealed several illegal dredging sites along the Lekki foreshore, arresting 5 suspects while others fled. The federal government has assured Nigerians that there will be no disruption in the supply of petroleum products despite concerns over the Naira for Crude Oil initiative and disputes involving the Dangote refinery. In a statement after a meeting of the Steering Committee on Domestic Crude Oil and Refined Product Sales in Local Currency, the government said energy security and market stability remain top priorities. Finance Minister Wale Edu, who chaired the meeting, explained that reports of a suspension of the crude for Naira deal by the Dangote refinery have been amicably resolved. The committee also confirmed that all outstanding issues, including the dispute between the Oil Workers Union, Pengasan, and the refinery, are being urgently addressed. Personnel of the Nigerian Navy attached to forward operating base Escravos have deactivated 6 illegal refining sites in a series of coordinated operations at the Obodo Omadino community in Warri southwest local government area of Delta State. During the operations, approximately 11,550 liters of stolen crude oil were seized. Commanding officer of the FOB Escravos, Ikenna Okolagu, said the products were discovered in 52 dugout pits and 7 polythene sacks. Okolagu stated that the achievements were recorded under the ongoing Operation Delta Sanity 2, made possible through credible intelligence and aligned with the strategic directives of the Chief of Naval Staff, Emmanuel Ogala. Now to the rest of the stories. The federal government has approved a reform which makes compliance with the National Policy for the Nigeria Education Repository and Data Bank (NERD) a mandatory requirement for mobilization into or exemption from the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC). This is in line with provisions in sections 2, subsection 4, 4, and section 16, subsection 1C of the NYSC Act. In a compliance circular issued by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, the government said effective from October 6, no Nigerian graduate, whether from a Nigerian institution or an overseas institution, will be mobilized for or exempted from NYSC without proof of NERD compliance. The circular said this step aims to safeguard the nation's intellectual assets while restoring credibility to academic processes and qualifications. It added that the directive does not affect serving corps members or those enrolled before the October 6 date, which is the enforcement date. The Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, CAPA, has called on the federal and state government to urgently adopt stronger food and tobacco control policies to curb the rising burden of cardiovascular and other non-communicable diseases in the country. CAPA made this call in a statement signed by its media and communication officer, Robert Egbe, to commemorate the 2025 World Heart Day. CAPA stressed the need for authorities to implement evidence-based interventions such as salt reduction targets, higher taxes on sugar-sweetened beverages and tobacco, clear front-of-pack warning labels on packaged foods, as well as restrictions on the marketing of junk food and nicotine products, particularly to children. Its executive director, Akimbode Oluwafemi, urged the government to stay committed to its plan of channeling revenues from these taxes into strengthening Nigeria's overstretched health system. Oluwafemi described the measures as cost-effective and life-saving, noting that they have the potential to protect families from the devastating health and financial burdens of heart disease and related illnesses. Today is World Heart Day. The day is to raise awareness for cardiovascular disease and the importance of taking care of the heart. Every year, the World Heart Federation champions heart health and acts to reduce the global burden of heart disease and stroke, which together claim 20.5 million lives every year. It engages individuals, families, schools, community groups, and governments to work together to make equitable heart health a priority and drive change across the globe. 2025 marks the 25th anniversary of World Heart Day with the theme, "Do not miss a bit." Now to foreign news. At least 4 people have been killed and 8 others injured after a gunman drove a vehicle into a Michigan church, opened fire, and set the building ablaze. Police said the attack on the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, a town 60 miles northwest of Detroit, happened during a Sunday service attended by hundreds of people. The suspect, identified as Thomas Sanford, who is 40 years old, from Burton, Michigan, was later shot dead by police in the church car park. Authorities are investigating the incident as an act of targeted violence, but say the motive remains unclear. In our sports, Robert Lewandowski has sealed a comeback win for Barcelona through a header as they beat Real Sociedad to move top of the La Liga table. Sociedad had stunned the host in the 31st minute when Alvaro Odriozola finished off a quick counter-attack, but Barca drew level just before the break with Jules Koundé powering in a header from a Marcus Rashford corner. The breakthrough came in the second half when substitute Lamine Yamal, introduced in the 58th minute, made an instant impact, beating his marker and delivering a perfect cross for Lewandowski to nod home. Rashford impressed again for the Catalans, forcing several saves from keeper Alex Ramiro before being substituted late on as coach Hansi Flick looked ahead to Wednesday's Champions League clash with Paris Saint-Germain. And that ends our news at 10. Just before we go, slow down at road junctions, intersections, and pedestrian crossings. You can follow us and like all our various social media platforms: X at Traffic Radio 961, Facebook Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM, Instagram Lagos Traffic Radio 961. Subscribe and watch news and programs live on YouTube at Traffic Radio 961. Visit our website on www.trafficradio961.ng. You can also listen to Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM live on My Lagos app for timely updates. Did you know that the Sanwo-Olu administration disbursed 200 million naira as loan to 33 Nigerian filmmakers? You can get more details on the Lagos State Government website. To end the news, try the highlights of the major stories. Lagos State Government, in partnership with the Nigerian Association of Tour Operators, NATOP, and other stakeholders, has reaffirmed its readiness to transform Takwa Bay and other beaches in the state into world-class tourism destinations. The federal government has approved a reform which makes compliance with the National Policy for the Nigerian Education Repository and Data Bank (NERD) a mandatory requirement for mobilization into or exemption from the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC). We also told you that at least 4 people have been killed and 8 others injured after a gunman drove a vehicle into a Michigan church, opened fire, and set the building ablaze. And in sport, Robert Lewandowski has sealed a comeback win for Barcelona through a header as they beat Real Sociedad to move top of the La Liga table. For contact with the newsroom, send a message to info@trafficradio961.ng. That is the news broadcast compiled by Adewale Oloporoku. I am Dele Agadumo. Good morning. Thank you for listening.